What was wow. Amazon's future plans for open world. What the heck was David Verify referring to when he said this?
No PvP content, unbelievable.
And so this only contains the stuff we have super high confidence on. One of the things Dan and I talked about is, the influence game and how we're going to be making some changes to that. And I think that's really going to spice up the open world PvP because I think people are super excited about that part.
Hey everyone, it's Jafar, and in this video, I'm going back to the October dev update to pick apart everything they said about their future plans for open world PvP and the territory influence mechanics. Please like the video and leave a comment because it really helps me out. Don't forget to smack that subscribe button so you never miss another video. I also stream 5 nights a week at twitch.tv/badguyfromaladdin. Without further ado, let's get started.
That one of the other awesome things about PvP is open world.
I love open world PvP.
The memories of Great Cleave and
Great Cleave days
early
were pretty
on
lit.
in the game, pushing territories and having that resistance. Of,
Launch open
large
world
groups of
PvP was
people
wild.
Something that we'll
The
always remember
Zergs,
in
the
New World. Do you guys
skirmishes,
have any
the
adjustments
Frost
that
Gauntlet,
will potentially promote
ambushes.
that
Oh my
Great
gosh.
Cleave open world experience that
was a good time.
we had all having fun in during the introduction to the PvP track?
Yeah, this is a big area of focus for us over the
I'm
longer
so
term.
glad he said that.
So to kind of sketch out what we're thinking, we're kind of
Big area of
major
focus.
things. First one being
That's a big deal to me.
timing windows, like that Great Cleave. I mean, like Great Cleave was the place to be, so it drove everybody
So much
to one place
fighting.
to do more PvP. So if you can kind of imagine a world where at any given time, only like 2 territories are generating influence right now. So hopefully it will drive everybody to those zones. Like, I mean, it kind of happens organically at times, like during peak times, like when there's an influence push happening, everybody swarms there. That's when there's like the most fun in open world PvP right now. Well, we hope will happen is with these time windows, that'll just happen all the time.
This is the first major part of this video, is time windows. Right now, the only time windows when it comes to faction conquest is the siege windows that a owning company has for when they go to war. Other than that, there's no real time restrictions. And I kind of love this idea. I hope they're not too small. I hope that the windows are relatively large, several hours. Now he does talk about like only 2 territories at a time. Does that mean they rotate them? How does that work? Does that also mean that there's an endpoint? If I'm an opposing faction and I want to try to flip a territory over to war declaration, do I have a deadline before we lose all our influence or before influence gets locked and we have to start back up the next window? Open world PvP is at its best when it's directed to a specific place and at specific times. People are going to gather when you know where people are going to be, and the actions are going to be their hotspots. Creating hotspots is big for world PvP.
One of the really cool things about open world PvP is the fort control points,
Which is really the only hotspot right now in
every
a
fort
territory.
has like a faction buff,
And it gives you a buff.
But each of them
That's
also
it.
grants
and this. Yes.
extra influence on PvP mission turning. So if you can imagine multiple control points within each territory.
I had the same exact reaction as David.
One of the things that we're not sure about, but yes. So
they had the same reaction.
You can start to wonder like what like different factions can be controlling these, and again, it's all within a window of time.
So multiple POIs and capture points. This is something that I would love in New World. It's something that's really missing from open world PvP. Right now, the only thing an opposing faction or any faction has interest in a particular territory is the fort. The fort is capturable in every territory, and they give a buff to the faction that controls them. It also gives a buff to the faction that controls it in how much influence they gain if they're trying to flip a territory. So it does matter when a faction's trying to declare war on a territory, but if you give multiple POIs and reasons to control them, it drives the PV to those spots. You no longer have a massive blob at just one place. You may have multiple groups and skirmishes happening spread out throughout the territory. On a large scale like that, it feels like there's a real war going on outside of just war. The idea of open world PvP is to feel like there's a real struggle happening.
Like everybody's going to swarm there, fight over these points.
And might like the number of forts you have control the multiplier you get for those factions?
And there's your
This
reason.
multiplier might go very, very, very high which would again hopefully address one of the problems with PvP missions and influence right now, which is that it can seem like it takes a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I know one of the problems whenever you implement open world PvP systems like this, though, is oftentimes you'll have big, huge Zergs running around just dominating everything, which can take away from the experience a little bit. Is there any mechanics implementing or you're planning to implement to try to have some, like, not necessarily super small scale, but to prevent these huge Zergs from just dominating the map?
And currently, right now, unfortunately, the Zergs he's talking about is just a quest train. It's just a big blob or line of people just repeating the faction missions. They just have you run around the territory. And that's a bad way to cause natural PvP. The only way to stop the other team is to try killing them or to try to do the same rotation faster. Most of the PvP occurs at the fort because controlling the fort makes those missions more impactful. So controlling multiple control points means your faction influence has a multiplier. There's your reason. There's your drive to go there. It also causes camaraderie between companies in a faction because it might take a much larger amount of people to actually influence a territory to war. If my faction's trying to flip a territory, maybe our company's not interested in declaring war. But I bet if I had a group of people in my company who want to help, hey guys, we're going to go control B point, whatever that is, because it's going to help them gain more influence. Maybe they give us an update to the faction missions that make a lot more sense around fighting for these cap points in a given territory. It's an idea I've been begging for, actually even with the endgame zones that aren't controllable right now. I'd love to see cap points used in those zones.
It's an area where, I mean, I think we're heading into uncharted territory. We're going to have to play test. We're going to have to feel things out.
Which means
And
it
I
could
know
take
some
a while.
things that
That's some
we're talking
language.
about
We've
are,
got a
like,
lot of work to
lock
do.
Windows where, like, once a fort is claimed, it can lock.
They used to lock
Yeah, no,
before
I think the other
invasions.
thing
Now
is
they
this
don't lock.
timing window isn't going to be like an hour either, right? Like it's going to be
Good. I want
the main
big
thing
windows.
we want to avoid is the 2 a.m. pushes, right? Like as a company.
Totally
owner,
agree
it
with
sort
this
of sucks to
concept.
have to defend
Middle of
those
the
pushes,
night.
and you can't do it. Like
Mhm.
so, I think the idea of the timing window is to give a broad enough time frame where it's not like a big Zerg, like 1 hour go there, but shallow enough to where you can't do those sorts of things. And the other part I like about it is
This is a big
it'll
deal.
feel more like you can win as a defender, right?
This is
Right
huge,
now it
in
feels
my
like
opinion.
I'm just going to lose eventually as a defender anyway, so why bother counter pushing too much? With this, if you have, let's say, a couple hours window, like if you can defend
Couple
that, then
hours,
you're
he
safe
gives us a
until your
number.
next window opens up, and I think that'll be a nice feeling. So yeah, and so let's say we add multiple fort points. You've got the different locations for faction missions. So I think the goal is to have a
For
couple
faction
different
missions. See, I hope
hotspots
they
in the
update them.
territory when
Yep.
the timing window is on, not just sort of one big ball.
Right.
That last part there, when he talks about feeling like you can't defend a territory. Right now, the system's really stacked against a territory owner. If you're a faction and you guys want to flip a territory into war and declare, it's pretty much a done deal. But as a defending or owning territory company owner, you don't really get an opportunity to defend your territory until it's already declared war and you have to fight it out in a war. This system, it sounds like they're aiming at making a genuine territory struggle occur between controlling faction and opposing faction. And if you can successfully defend there, you don't have to put everything on the line in this 50-on-50. So I'm really glad that they're thinking of that it matters to them that, we want to make the open world struggle kind of part of the war experience. And that's pretty much everything that they give us in this small session. It's not that much, guys, but the way they're talking, the types of details they're giving us, it sounds like they're really starting to think about this, maybe even add these things into their internal build. But it was completely ignored or left out in the most recent developer video. And then they came out with the Q&A video that I referred to at the very beginning of this video. And David then came through with that little bit that I showed you. Here it is again.
One of the things Dan and I talked about is, the influence game and how we're going to be making some changes to that. And I think that's really going to spice it up the open world PvP because I think people are super excited about that part.
Now, that answer that he gave in the Q&A, does that mean before the spring roadmap? Or is this a long-term, we won't see this until much further down the road? I'm hoping what David meant when he said that was we're thinking of implementing this conversation, these things, soon, because it's something I'm very excited about. This is the stuff I want to do the most in this game. I want to be out in the world fighting for territories with, 100 people. I want to hear what you guys think they meant when they said these things, as well as what you guys would like to see they add in open world PvP and the influence gain system. Are there any things they said you don't like or you aren't excited about? I'd love to hear your guys' comments on this topic. Thank you guys for listening to me today talk about the possible future of open world PvP, influence gain, and territory control in New World. And I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. You're a legend. Don't forget to smack that subscribe button, as well as check me out on Twitter at Jafar_BGFA and on Twitch at BadGuyFromAladdin. Later.